Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. It is Saturday at GearFest 2012 here at Sweetwater, and we are joined by guitarist extraordinaire Neil Zaza.
Hey.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Great to be here.
We appreciate it. You're here demonstrating the Avid 11 rack system,
Absolutely.
correct? We're going to talk a little bit about that as we get in here. But you're from the Akron area, correct?
Akron, Cleveland area. That's
Cleveland
right.
area,
yeah.
right.
Just pretty close by. A little car drive, and I'm here.
Yeah, right. Not too far up the road anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So you started playing about 10 years old, is that right?
Yeah, probably about 10 years old. And it's funny, I have this shirt on because I heard Van Halen 1, and from that moment it changed my life. I'm like, I have to play guitar after hearing Running with the Devil and Eruption and all that. That was it. So, yeah.
Right, and you went on to study classical guitar.
Studied classical guitar at the University of Akron. But as they say, a man cannot serve two masters. So, while it's real nice for all the all the educational and all the beautiful music in the catalog that you can play.
Right.
I had to rock, So I left that behind. I tried to take as much as I could with what I learned and with what I do today. Yeah.
Right. There's a classical influence to what you do in a lot of things there.
Thank
yeah.
you.
What do you feel you brought forth from that?
I think it's more of a discipline rather than maybe, playing something in harmonic minor or emulating composers. I think it's more of a discipline of the study of music and like how I approach things. When I used to have to practice 8 hours a day working on a written piece, there's a certain, maybe a work ethic that I pulled out of it, as well as a lot of the music theory and stuff that maybe I wouldn't have gotten if I was just playing clubs, playing cover tunes or something like that. So while I don't retain any of the repertoire that I learned, back in the day, because that's a use it or lose it thing.
Right.
I think I bring with me the theory and the work ethic that I had to instill in myself during that time period.
Right.
Yeah.
And a slightly different perspective.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
You had that experience of going through that, I would bet.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially sometimes I hate using the word out of the box, but as a rock player, we're always going to go to a pentatonic scale first because, let's go. But maybe now, because I've had that influence, I may consider something else before I go to that pentatonic as my first choice for something. So, yeah, it has had an ingrained effect in me for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you went on to form the band Zaza.
Yeah, that
did a couple albums. Correct?
Yeah, we did a few records, toured on that, and then I just realized I loved playing the guitar, and for me, the inside joke with a lot of band members around anywhere is the LSD, meaning lead singer disease, right? So I was like, you know what? Why don't I try just singing with the guitar, so to speak? And Neil Schon was a big influence for me, so I kind of used that as a template, and I started to do what I do today, which is the kind of music I do today. Right.
Which, listening back to your catalog, you've got a number of solo albums that you've put out, and listening back through that, the thing that always jumps out, or immediately jumps out, is there's so many great guitar players and so many guys who can really shred and play at the speed of light and everything, but your focus is really on melody, and the melodies you play are very vocal. In character. Is that something you said you were singing with your guitar? Is that something you were consciously really trying to develop, that vocal style?
Yeah, for me, it comes down to, like, if we think of maybe songs or music that really affected us, no matter who we are, it's always about the song. It's always about the melody. It's always about the hook, or it's about how that song makes us feel. Rarely do we ever think, well, the guitar solo was so fast, he played 128th quadruple, whatever it is.
Right.
It's never about that. So for me, I want to play a good song or a great song and then put some good guitar on it. But I think, for me, I think a lot of people miss the point where it's sometimes the music becomes just a drone. It becomes a background just to say, hey, look at me, I can play. I have this sweep down. Where it's not about music anymore, it's about athletics. And I always wanted to play music that just moved me as music, not necessarily being the guitar, if that makes any sense at all.
Right, which isn't to say you can't tear it up, because obviously you have the technique and you
I try.
use it where appropriate. I mean, that's the key to technique, right? Is to bring it out when it needs to be brought out for the musical statement you're trying to make.
But you bring up a good point, which is a lot of people miss that point, which is it's always about the technique of the guitar, not, that's like actually looking at the Mona Lisa and the brush strokes are, he used this pigment of red, and he, instead of stepping back and looking at the whole picture and saying, that's a beautiful piece of art, or whatever, painting, of course, but you're being a technician rather than than enjoying the art for what it is. So.
Right. Now you've worked with a number of pretty amazing guest artists on
Yeah.
your album.
Yeah.
Steve Smith, Jordan Rudess, Michael Anthony, Stuart Hamm.
Yeah.
What have you taken away from working with musicians of that caliber?
I am nothing.
No.
It's amazing because these guys are obviously top-notch musicians. So, like Steve Smith, he would come in and he would memorize the track, play one take. It's flawless, right? He'd come in. So, what do you think, Neil? Do I need to? And normally, I have always a lot to say in a producer sense. And,
Right.
Well, Steve, I don't know, it's perfect. Or like Jordan Rudess, he came in and I went up to New York and we recorded. And again, another perfect musician. It's amazing that these guys exist out there, and it's what kind of keeps me humble and keeps me working because I see that. I was lucky to have Peter Frampton on one of the tracks, and Michael Anthony was a big thing for me because obviously Van Halen.
Sure.
And the weirdest moment with that was we were in the studio and we recorded everything live in the live room, and I'm playing and I did a little lick or something, and he's like, yeah. And for 1 second, it was like a feedback loop in my mind because I'm thinking, I did something that Michael sort of liked, which was great, but the only reason I did that riff is because I stole it off of the band he was in. So it was like, he was liking something that was derivative of something he had done. So
Right.
it was a big feedback loop, if that makes any sense
Yeah,
at all.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
So.
Now you do a really cool thing. You do a Christmas concert, and you've done 2 CDs as well.
Yeah.
Right? What was the genesis of that?
A family member always did these craft shows. I'll make this long story very short.
Okay.
And I would sit there at this craft show and kind of just be a good son and whatever and hang out. And I always laughed. I'm like, if I did a Christmas record, I could get these blue hair old ladies to buy this Christmas CD instead of whatever you're selling, and I'd make a fortune. It was always a joke.
Right.
So we were leaving out on tour, and we got in a bad bus accident. It was Bobby Rock, Bill the Buddha Dickens, and me. And so I was laid up for a little bit, couldn't go on tour, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna actually do this. Let's just see what happens. So from that little joke of an idea, it turned into, we started recording, brought a full orchestra in, did 2 records, One Silent Night, Volume 1, Volume 2, and then we started doing some theaters in Cleveland, and then it expanded from there. So now every year, in the fall, we start kind of getting it together, full orchestra, full choir, rock interpretations of Christmas music, but we also do mashups. So like, What Child Is This? Or Is That Dream On? We do that, or Hark the Herald Angels Sing is Baba O'Reilly, or
Right.
First Noel is Streets Have No Name. So we've kind of put a kind of a twist to it. So it's been fun. It's a lot of work, but
Yeah,
I
that's a
enjoy
big
it
major
for that
undertaking.
season.
Yeah, awesome. The new album is Clyde the Cat.
Yes.
And what can you tell us about this?
I had a chance to go back and touch on a few tunes that I've always wanted to do. Well, specifically the first tune, which is Funeral for a Friend by Elton John. Always my #1 favorite song of all time. And so this is the record that I actually got a chance to do it. Also on this record in specific, I had a chance to go back and bring some of my older songs up to date, so to speak. So some of my earlier stuff was a little raw, how I recorded at first. So this is sort of a cleaning the palette sort of record where I made right some of the stuff I really wanted to do for a long time.
Right. Well, sounds great.
Thank you. Thank you so
Sounds great.
much.
Nice stuff. And you're here at Gear Fest demonstrating the Avid 11 rack. Well, how did you start using the 11 rack?
I was actually at Sweetwater here doing a presentation, and it wasn't even released yet. And Rob McGay had pulled me aside and said, check this out. And of course, when you initially hear it, what can you say but wow?
Right.
It's incredible.
Right.
So I had a chance to do some presets for the Sweetwater artist presets. And from that point, it's been a part of my recording arsenal, sometime part of my live arsenal. It's as I'm sure you know, and I've seen you do a video or 2 on it.
That's right.
It's a very natural sounding unit. Plus, it feels correct, which is what I like.
Right.
Obviously the impedance changes as you switch guitars and pickups and stuff. So it's a great unit. I use it all the time, and I'm glad to be talking about it today because it's natural for me.
Right. Well, it's so cool to have a guitarist of your caliber demonstrating what it can really sound like and what you can do with that interface. So
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming in and doing that for us.
I'm glad to be here.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate it.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute.